seated.
Just transverse sagittal frontal plane. And then usually what I've been doing is like once they feel like they've kind of got those triplanar movements down, then take them through the whole Monty, like the whole thing. So yeah, so that's usually what I do. I've seen that that's a little more successful. And then same thing with like the wrists as well. Just going uniplanar, in, out, up, down, in, out, up, down, in, out, up, down, versus taking them through this whole thing where they're compensating pretty much the whole time that they do it.
Yeah.
So for those two, I typically simplify it initially, and then also cervical.
Oh yeah.
Simplify cervical also.
That's pretty. And so this is all. These are the ones.
Yeah, that's just kind of like the rough videos that I've kind of accumulated that are, I mean, they're guidelines with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, you know, I guess that's kind of the point is like, this is like an idea of how to do these movements. And then, you know, you tailor that to the person as well, right? Because their range isn't going to look like my range.
Right.
My range might not look like their range. They might have more available overhead motion. I might have more hip mobility. So the idea, and I think this is like kind of the same thing of like thought process versus absoluteness of the exercise, is take them through their available, stable, controlled end range motion as safely as possible, and make sure that or try and reinforce positive pain-free movement. And that's kind of the idea with the daily warm-up.
Yeah.
Right. So I tell people, I say, hey, my range isn't going to look like your range. So that's what I'm saying is like, you can do this because you're going to be like, hey, look, my range is going to be different than yours. And Brennan might have way more glenohumeral mobility. Like when I blew my shoulder out, I had this range here. It's like, you can go as high up as you want. Like, you can do this. So you can show them on your right arm and go, hey, look, this is what I can do on this side, and I'm still working on, getting through some of this shoulder rehab stuff that I'm working on. So it's okay to not be like a specimen when you're doing this, right? And like, if you need balance, hold on to something to show them the hip thing. And if you only,
If they need balance, like everybody can. It seems so dynamic.
It's tailored, right? It's very, very specific to that person. Don't just make them do it on one foot without balance, because that's what the video looks like.
And you're like, oh, we've just been on the table phase one, working on your ankle for so long, but now you have to do this.
Yeah, and it's, the idea with this is to get it's almost like a warming up to this crazy phase 2 dynamic thing. So you get to see what their capacity looks like, what they actually have, and where they break down pretty quickly too. So it's like a full 200-point range of motion assessment in a 15-point range of motion assessment, because you start seeing comp patterns, you start seeing lateral flexion breakdown, you start seeing like side bend when they try and get overhead.
There's like a recording, like a sheet in here, an assessment sheet, and that's super foreign. So I'm just like, okay, how do you track?
Yeah. So with the daily warm-up assessment, and this will be refined at some point. This was just how I built it out initially. So like, if you're looking at segmentation, you're having somebody segment. I typically start them from the lumbar spine, and then you'll kind of work them. I mean, you've felt this before. We'll work them into flexion and extension. And so where they break down or they can't segment is where you'll kind of redline this. So you'll see something like somebody starts moving. It's like, oh, they got good lumbar flexion, good low T-spine, and then they're like, and you're like, whoa, can I see you segment your mid to upper T-spine? And they're like, yeah, sure. And you're like, okay, your T-spine isn't moving at all. Redline. So then it's like red from maybe like C7, C6. Is this the actual template?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's fine. And I'll just erase it. Just wanted to No. So I would have some kind of. I got.
You got it? You gotta push, there we go.
So I would do something like this where I'm like.
It's on, yeah.
So I do something like that where I'm like, okay, that's not good, and that's all good. So I'm going, okay, this person isn't wanting to segment from this region, and I'd write, inflection or whatever, or in extension, whatever it might be. Yeah, exactly.
Like, and that would look like if they're like, oh yeah, I'm flexing just fine, and then they're like come up straight. And I'm able
like
to-
if they start unfurling and they're like, that's great, and then they're like, done.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, you got a bunch more here to go. Right, so you would redline that same area.
Okay.
Most of the time I see that it's pretty much like the same region
Yeah.
that doesn't want to move flexion and extension, but I mean it's never consistent, so I never
Okay.
expect to see anything there.
Well, the fact that we've spent so much time already in phase one, like this person can go through this, and it's
For sure,
it's just highlighting.
Yeah, I mean, like Brennan, you feel very comfortable with taking him through this at this point, as far as his capacity to do this, right? Yeah.
How do you break down flexion and extension for each one of these?
Just write it.
Okay.
Yeah, so like if you were seeing like T-spine 1, like thoracic 1 through 5, extension was the issue, you would just write under an extension or something like that.
Do you think that this is more or less like a quadruped thing? I know it's like really important. Do you think that's more a more like advanced thing? Obviously, like seated, hook lying.
Yeah, I mean, I would say seated is the most like normal for someone to do, and then hook lying is safer than quadruped, and then quadruped is you're getting hip complex and shoulder complex involved in this thing as well, right? Yeah. So you got to factor those things in, and then this is the
More advanced.
but then you can also just go, hey, they have a transverse issue, they have a sagittal issue, right? That you can circle those, or this is that flexion, rotation, side bend, extension, rotation, side bend, flexion, right? Flexion, rotation, side bend, extension, rotation, side bend, flexion, and then this would be going to the right. Flexion, rotation, side bend, extension, rotation, side bend, flexion.
Okay. And
Same thing, trunk and spine.
And then if somebody is not, you can also just do the like flexion, extension.
That's what I'm saying. Like you could just start
Side
with
bend.
these three.
Side bend, rotation.
Right. Yeah, and so then you would just like
That's
if you were like, okay, let's rotate, and they're like stuck, you're like, okay, well that's left
Yeah.
rotation, transverse. Okay, like I mean this you're not gonna get left right with this, you're just gonna you can circle one or add it into the notes. But if they're like, ooh, that's not good. But really,
Yeah.
I mean, at this point they should be fairly decent at doing this thing, right? If you sit them down and you start having them flex their spine and they're like, whoa, oh my god, like we've missed something in phase one at that point, right? I mean sometimes.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is.
Well, yeah, because at this point, just to back up a little bit, you've cleared their range of motion.
Ideally, yeah.
On their blueprint.
Yeah.
And you've been like, all right, oh wow, this person can barely do this, can barely do
Yeah.
this, and then so.
Which is a good thing to see. And you're like, oh crap, I haven't finished my job here.
Yeah.
The other thing with this, which we wouldn't necessarily see in phase one, is if you choose to do this standing, which is going to be a very different mechanical experience. So you may see that they're not good at flexing their spine sagittally when they're standing.
Yeah.
So then you go, okay, we'll work on this standing, and it's no big deal. Yep.
Is the quadruped on all fours?
Yes. And then shoulder mobility, protraction, retraction. This is starting from a protracted position, or starting into protraction, or starting into retraction, and then configurationally, this is the thing that I'm talking about with the tailored experience here. I start typically with people hands at their sides, and then it would be starting either forward, up, back, down, or backward, up, forward down. So whichever one you're starting with there, if you start forward, then it's going, I probably should write it as clockwise or counterclockwise, honestly. That would make more sense. Or, I mean, yeah, something like it. But the idea here is the idea here is to look at it going both directions. So forward, up, back, down, and backward, up, forward, down. So either protraction or retraction one way, or going the other way. So
Protraction, up, back, down.
yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough because it's left, right.
Yeah,
so
so like, can you do clockwise? Because that's counterclockwise. And that
depends which way the clock's facing too.
Yeah.
Like if the clock was facing away, this side would be
They're both.
clockwise, and this side would be
There's a
Clockwise,
here,
so it
there's a
doesn't-
here.
yeah, it's tricky. Right, if the clock was facing
Yeah.
this way, that would retraction would be
Mhm.
clockwise. If the clock was facing this way, protraction would be clockwise.
I guess if you look at it from both sides from the outside, you as an observer.
If the clock was over here the whole time, yeah.
So that'd be clockwise.
Yeah.
Or you could just stick
Oh,
it the
that'd be
whole way forward
counterclockwise,
and
yeah.
back.
That's why I
Yeah.
wrote retraction. and
Yeah, I think that. I
protraction.
honestly think that's why.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, so you mean just know what that means, right? I
And then
mean,
you just know where you're starting, or it doesn't, okay, that's.
Yeah. So the idea, what I typically do with people is I'll start them like this. I'll go, okay, we're gonna upwardly rotate, and then protract, and then retract, and then done. Because what I've seen a lot of times, and this is not all the time, but most of the time, people are usually depressed, and they're down here, and then I'm like, downwardly rotate, and then they're like. They're
Side bending
stuck,
to it.
right? And their neck's getting all blown up. So I'm like, okay, let's see if you can upwardly rotate your clavicle. Okay, good. Now let's protract, or now let's retract, and that's how I'm differentiating these two. Is the second movement after upward rotation.
And you would never set them in a position to start because you're observing their natural state.
You could choose to.
Because they, chest forward with the
Yeah. I mean, it just totally depends on the.
sternum up and out. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
You said if they're down here and then they can't.
Well, I
down
would
and
kind of
press.
explore. I would explore like. At this point, I mean, you probably would have worked on segmentation and spinal mechanics, and I mean, if it's like a scoliotic thing or a positional thing, I know that I can't move them out of that position. I'm not gonna try to do that. If they're slouching for the sake of being lazy, then I'm gonna say, hey, let's get engaged, and yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's safe to say that you would want to get them in a good starting position for
Okay.
sure. But if
Because this is phase 2.
but like phase 1. I mean, this is like a tweener phase.
The tweener phase.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the assessment before phase 2, which is also from my bias is kind of like,
Protraction.
This blows me up.
Shoulder.
it blows me up.
Yeah.
Usually the daily warm up.
Which is a problem,
You mean
right? I mean,
personal, physical?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if
So-
I go through it and I'm not really, really careful,
yeah,
which,
yeah,
but there's times when we go through it, and if it's not intentional, like I did it, at George's appointment. I
Mhm.
think that was after I did DEDS.
Yeah.
And was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, yeah, this is the thing is like, I mean, and
Knees are.
I'm going into our relationship with your table stuff and your MSS thing, but like, this is definitely one of the reasons why I haven't wanted to like, I've been wanting to like get this nailed and like not phase 2. Like we've done this, I think we've done this like 3 times now
Yeah.
where I'm like, we should do this daily warm up. And then, I don't know, we end up, something happens
Yeah.
and we've never really like solidified this as a motor pattern for you. So your body, we haven't, I think with sessions, we haven't been able to like claw our way into making this a kind of a crystallized pattern for your body, because like
Yeah.
you said, it pisses your system off, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, why are these very basic and generalized movements just pissing you, like wrecking your system? So
Well, and that
You
makes
know?
me think about spinal stuff, you know, because like if somebody's standing, doing these hip things, and even if they have a pull, you know, you're like, okay, I gotta really be tight in my core
pelvic floor,
and all the things.
right? Yeah.
So.
Which is good. I mean, if you can, that's the thing is like if you can tap into this and get a hold of this movement pattern, and it turns into a nourishing movement pattern, then they got this for life.
Yeah.
And then this, you know, the idea with this is this replaces all the bullshit white noise that we keep having to deal with certain people, where we're like, shit, we gotta get back on the table, let's reset, like these random things that happen, and it just lights the system up. I've found that when we solidify this thing, the body is much more resistant to kind of blowing up, I guess is the easiest way to put it. I mean, you're I would say a perfect example of this. I can't remember when you broke your fibula or tibia or something. I mean, and you weren't you like doing the daily warm up? Yeah, right. Like with a boot and like couldn't do anything. I mean, we tried training a little bit, but it was like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. But but she kept doing it all the way through this blown up foot thing, and I think that really kept your system at least like integrated with.
Could you put pressure on your boot?
That shit was crazy. We trained a bunch after we figured out that it was broken, huh?
We did. I mean, I
Oh,
did
that
sitting.
was-
I can't stand. It was harder to get.
We were like doing cable machines, seated, and like single leg squats, and like.
On a fractured tibia?
Was it? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
That was before you knew or during the healing?
It took a while to figure out.
It took a long time to.
Oh, you didn't know it was fractured?
Yeah.
Was it a stress fracture? We don't have to go into it.
I stood up. That's what happened.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was asleep. Everything was asleep on one side,
Oh,
and
really?
I jumped up.
Blam.
Interesting.
We blew that puppy up.
Wow.
Yeah, because there's nothing there. There's nothing.
You're gonna have to make up a better story.
Yeah.
I
right.
know,
Running from a dog.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Jumped the fence.
Eli, I love her.
Yeah, any of that.
Speed, yeah,
Yeah.
skiing, yeah.
Karate.
But this is a really good
Someone tried to
conversation
mime.
about
Yes.
the daily warm up.
Yes.
As far as like you're saying, it will prevent you. I don't want to say it's a warranty, but it will help you stay in phase 2.
I kind of love the
Yeah.
fact that you just use the word warranty. It is almost like something like that. I mean, it's like.
Well, it's high value.
Yeah,
and
for
so
sure.
Implementing this into someone's daily.
Daily warm up, right? Exactly.
It is what it is,
Yeah.
but still sometimes I think we skip steps. I know
Yeah,
I do,
yeah.
or I get unintentional, like we
Right,
discovered
for
last
sure.
time.
Yeah.
So I think it's just
Yeah, it's a good reminder to bring,
yeah.
and you know, like I tell people, like do it every day, and then it's like, man, if you're doing this like 2 to 3 days a week, and you're like giving your system these movements, I mean, 2 to 3 to 4 days a week of this is like, I feel is enough to at least keep reminding your system, and then also being able, you know, the other cool thing about the daily warm up is, one, it educates your system on how to move, but it also educates you on if you're breaking down.
Right.
So if like one day you're like, I mean, Monday you're like, hell yeah, this is great, this is good, and then like you do something on Tuesday, you walk your dog or whatever, and something happens, and then the next day you're like, oh no, this SC isn't moving anymore. Then and then what you do with the human that you're working with is you educate them on, hey, if it's not moving, just gently, I've kind of use this word like scrubbing, like scrub it a little bit, like kind of like scrubbing it back and forth.
Feels good.
Yeah, right. So and then you're not like, your expectation of hammering it into these positions goes away, where you're not creating an unwanted pattern, and you're like, oh, there it is, okay, it's back. And so you can almost replace us as far as like having to tighten these bolts up for no reason, or not for
Yeah,
no
if you don't have to
reason.
go
but
back to the table
it's like,
necessarily.
dude, we're wasting sessions here. Like if you're out of phase 1, you're doing this daily warm up, you're locked in, and then we have to keep hopping on the table. It's like, I'm ready to run with this person, and so that's why I really adopted this as a big.
Can you do that, like scrubbing, like with retractions?
You do it with everything. I mean, that's the thing is like when I'm like doing something like left rotation, I'm like, okay, that's fine, and then right rotation, I'm like, ooh, that's not good. Then I'll kind of hang out here and like try and find. Oh, there we go. Oh, there it is. Hi. You can do it with any movement there. Like, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Ooh, that's a little hard. Okay.
So when you're saying scrubbing, you're talking about lubricating the joint?
Yeah, I
The
just
synovial joint, if it's a
The
synovial joint.
movement,
with
like the
Yeah.
motion, just
scrubbing.
kind
I
of.
don't know. I don't know why the word scrubbing came to my mind, but just like kind of.
Like
back
flossing
and forth.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Flossing, scrubbing. Yeah, the back and forth motion, I think, is the reason that scrubbing came to mind there with that. So.
Jazz, do you want to maybe just walk us through daily, like you going over the daily warm-ups and and just kind of the assessment process of it?
Yeah, we want to do it today?
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
would that be helpful, Julie?
Yeah,
Do that?
Cool.
for sure.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to cover before we do that?
I think I just wanted to ask one more question
Yeah.
about this because I have my practice client Sue,
Yeah.
and she's like, I mean, aside from medications that she's taken for cancer, I mean, her allostatic flow is pretty good,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
she's in her 70s, she's rigid, right?
Yeah.
So her, like, this movement and this movement is not so good.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, the other day, I wanted to talk to you about this too, and it kind of led me down this path. She's just like, well, I have osteoporosis, you know, I gotta be careful. And I was like, osteoporosis, like, does that hurt you? Like when you move, like and I was like, is that related to your bones, or is that related to your tightness of your
Yeah.
muscles, you know? And I think that, I'm not an expert on training people with osteoporosis, obviously,
Well, I mean, we are though.
but
I mean, I would say we are.
I mean, I've read a little bit about it, and having osteopenia, I've been like, oh my god, you know, like, what should I be doing
mean-
differently? But I know, like, not a lot of, like, loaded twisting and all of those things, but it seemed funny to me that, like, a simple rotation exercise.
Are you saying that you're concerned about like loaded twisting because of like the brittleness of the like
Yeah.
spinous processes?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's just an interesting
I think
observation, you know.
I'm kind of just like spitballing here, but I think there would be more concern with not being able to rotate, which would keep the vertebrae more fixed, which could then create more compressive forces, which
Yeah.
might actually
Yeah.
create a higher probability of breaking a spinous process versus if there's gliding happening. I'm just
Well,
just
and if
thinking
the
out loud,
tissues
but-
are moving and allowing
Yeah.
the vertebrae to articulate and rotate and move,
Yeah.
then if you're like kind of stuck and compressed and
Yeah.
you go to have to react to something
Then
and you
that's-
can't, then
right. Yeah.
that seems
Good-
dangerous.
Yeah,
But it was
totally.
an interesting thought to me because I was like, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Like, do you really
Yeah.
think that pain is from osteoporosis, or do
Yeah.
you think it's because you're rigid as fuck? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no
Like,
doubt.
you're not
Yeah,
moving.
yeah, 100%.
But in that case, so say this person is like, I mean, we have a ways to go.
Yeah,
So we're gonna train, we're gonna sure up these range of motion
Yep.
issues in phase one,
yep,
which is like QMAMCs,
Mhm.
and then, you know, like, because when people are super tight, limited range, like, why is that? Is it
Mhm.
because of your pelvic floor? Is it just because you don't really know how to do the motion? So somebody, say like that, where maybe they don't end up having a lot of motion, but then
Yeah.
we're coming to phase two, to the daily warm-up.
yep.
You know what I mean? I'm not maybe being
Is
super clear.
what's the question with
Like-
that though?
Should everybody, is it possible to clear all that stuff up? You know what I mean?
When you say clear, what do you mean by that?
Like the limited range of motion here.
What if that's a range though?
Yeah, and that's fine.
So I mean
Or
that
there's pain with it. You know,
if there's
ooh,
pain with
that
it, that's a
pain
problem,
stinks.
right? That's
Yeah.
that's the problem. So I mean, in this situation, I think the order of operations would be: why is she getting pain with the motion? Let's figure out how to change the mechanical / control based systems that are creating a pain response in that motion. And then whatever available range of motion she has, let's start implementing this daily warm up. And,
Yeah.
and
And
even
if it blows her up or it hurts, then
well, then
that's
why is
not-
it blowing her up and
Yeah.
hurting her, right? And then that goes back, the feedback loop goes back to why is she having pain with this motion?
yeah.
What's the control-based issue? Let's try and resolve the control-based issue. And if you keep doing that loop multiple times, then there's means to refer out, right? I
Right.
mean, at that point, it's like, if you can't get to a point where with your available range, whatever it might be, and this is that tailored component, right? If this is what she's got, and you feel it passively, and you're like, that's what you got, and she's still getting pain just doing this, and you've worked everything, I mean, you're like, I don't know what's going on here, right?
Right.
Is there a massive stenosis issue? Is there
Is there a mass?
whatever, right? You know, it could be, you know, so, but that's the thing is like, if you can get her to a point where you're like, hey, Sue, like this is how much range you have. See, like, one thing that might be happening is like her available range might be this, but she's go getter and she's like, I'm gonna go. And
Right.
she's like digging and digging and digging, and you're like, dude, chill. Like, let's
Yeah.
just stay in your comfort zone, and just work where it feels good, and don't push the, you know. So that may be, like, I've seen that before where I'm like, dude, let's just back off a little bit and just kind of work in this,
Yeah.
like, the safe place versus, you know, trying to push the boundaries. And then what happens, I mean, this is the amazing and wonderful thing about the human body is the body goes like, oh, that feels fine, I'm safe. And that's like, oh shit.
Maybe I could go a little bit
Oh,
more.
right. And it's like, and I love, that's one of the things I love about this daily warm up thing is the brain kind of jumps ahead of your body, or your nervous system jumps ahead of your brain, or whatever you want to call it. But if you let your body develop, then you don't have to be as go-getter with this type of exercise, because your body just starts opening up and going, oh, okay, this is nice.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah.
This feels good, right? Versus like, oh, I just did it to myself, right? You know, it's like, oh, okay, there we go. So anyway,
Well, it's interesting too, like just testing somebody who's got limited range. And if they can't find it, it's like giving it a little ISO, okay,
yeah, I
give me
mean,
a little Myo, the other way. How does that feel?
for sure,
Because I
yeah,
feel like QMAMCs can be like a,
it's pretty
um,
stressful,
yeah, stressful,
but
but
good
also,
information. Yeah,
and also like a signal, you
Yeah.
know, for their body to
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, like it could be nourishing. Because I know every time I get QMAMC'd or whatever, a lot of times I'm like, okay, wow, like I have information into my
Yeah.
body now,
Yep.
and you
Yep.
know,
yeah. And you know, somebody with osteopenia or osteoporosis, I mean, you may choose to have them QMAMC themselves. Like, you might just be the ISO and say, hey, rotate into me. Okay, cool. Rotate into me, versus like us doing this
Yeah.
game, right? You know, and then you get that feedback of like, if they're like, yeah, that's good, and then this side they're like, nah. You're like, okay, that's weird, and then you're not the one that's initiating. So I mean, that's the other thing. Like with the QMAMC, it doesn't always have to be 5 pounds of force. It can be less.
yeah,
It can be more specific. It can be them pulling into your hand. I do that all the time when somebody's like in pain. I'll be like, pull into me. I'm not gonna push you. Just give me a little resistance. So you can kind of navigate
Yeah.
with Sue with a higher risk
yeah.
person, something like that too. So I don't know.
I know, and then on that note,
Yeah.
sorry, just another thing that's not really what I want to talk about, but I have a friend who had her shoulder replaced,
Yep.
and you know, she's like going to this whole thing. She's like mobile. She's doing all of these things now, and she's like, yeah, but my range isn't good. I'm not at the spot where they want me to be, and I'm
Mhm.
just like, awesome. And you've been doing your exercises, and there's like this pressure on her now
Mm-hmm.
because she's been too gingerly or whatever. Which I'm just like, well, why is this all on you?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about all your practitioners that are
Yeah.
like
And
on her?
comparatively, is her left arm way more mobile than her right?
I think so. So yeah, she had the replacement here, and her range is just not where they want it to be. And to
Yeah.
me, I'm like, well, your tendons have been
Yeah.
attached, relocated. Like
Right.
it seems like QMAMCs and like little
Yeah.
like awareness and
Push to
motion,
start for sure.
you know,
Yeah.
would kind of help figure out how to move and
Yeah.
get more range.
Yeah.
Suspect to a prospect.
Oh yeah, she knows she's the suspect.
Nice.
She knows she's a prospect.
Nice.
But do you guys
Yeah.
want to do the daily warm up?
I would love to.
Cool.
You too. I want to make sure
Because
I haven't
everyone.
done it yet, so
Okay.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
watched the videos. So
Okay. Cool. So I mean, the idea here is like we can just all do this. Like I can just take us through this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be
and then can you do it like or should we do it on you like we're assessing we'll mark on the
sure.
sheet?
Yeah, we can do both.
Or like you're assessing somebody and you can show us how you're writing it? Or
Definitely.
do it all together?
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, I think everyone should feel it, right? Because I mean.
Also, I wanted to feel it.
Yeah, because if you're not feeling it, then you don't know what it feels like. Let's see.
Do you want me to pull it a little bit better?
Yep. What?
Yeah.
I guess we have to watch the video.
I know. Yeah.
He is the video.
But you got the sheet.
Yeah. And I mean, when we talk about like how to write on it, you're just writing your observations, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I just maybe like example
like what to write
of
on
yeah,
there.
what you might be doing.
I'm actually gonna. I'll turn this off and I'll do